This is a beginner Blender Python tutorial where we'll be going over how to update the code of an existing script with some functions. We'll be adding a simple animation, and at the end I'll give you a challenge how to update the animation to get a different result. Hey, I'm Victor Stepanoff. I'll be guiding you through this tutorial. Today we're going to be working on a script we started in another video. To get the code for the script you can watch that video, or also I've provided a link in the description under Start Code. You can open that link in your favorite browser, hit raw, copy the code, go back into Blender, and let's open the scripting workspace. You can scroll up here and then hit scripting, and then hit new, and then paste in the code you just copied. I'm going to clear the scene by hitting AX and then delete. And then we're just going to run this code to make sure that we're on the same page. I'm going to hover over the 3D viewport and hit Control Space to get a better view, and this is what you should have at the very start. In the first part of this video, we're not going to be updating the functionality of this script. We're just going to be adding some functions to better organize our code. We would add functions into a script to not have a wall of code that will be hard to navigate. For example, if you continue to add functionality to a script, eventually you're going to have a really long script that's going to be hard to navigate. With functions, you'll make your life easier. The very first thing that I want to do here is I want to just add a main function. Usually in Python, you'll name the very first function that you call main, and we'll do just that. So I'm going to go right up here and then write def. So def is a keyword that we use to tell Python that we're going to be defining a new function. So I'm going to say main, and then I'm just going to select all this code. So I selected it right here, and then I'm going down here and then holding shift on the keyboard and then clicking, and it selects everything, right? And then I'm going to hit tab to indent it. So all of this code is now under this function, right? So this is the keyword, this is the name, it could be anything. It can't start with numbers and it can't have spaces in the name. And this is going to be where we would add some arguments if we have any. All right, so right now, let me delete everything from the scene. And if we run the script now, nothing is going to happen because we're just defining this function. For a function to work, you have to actually call it, and we're not calling it anywhere in the script. So let's just run it and nothing happens. So let's actually call our function down here. So we have the definition of the function, and then now we call it right here. And again, you can call it maybe multiple times. Doesn't really make sense in this particular scenario, but I just want you to know that you can do that. So let's run our script. And now you can see our code is running again, and we have this single function. Now let's continue to start splitting up this code into separate functions. The next thing that we can do is we can look into the code and see what's the next function that we can create. And just looking at the main function, the very first thing that we do is we create our mesh. And let's extract this code into a separate function. So I'm going to select this code and then hit Control X to cut it. And then up above the main function, I'm going to create a new function called create mesh. And I'm going to paste in that code. And let me call this code right here. So I've created a new function, moved all of that functionality into this function. And also later in the video, I'm going to be using this object reference. So I'm going to return it right away like so. So you can return things from functions, meaning that whatever manipulation you do here, you can return it to the call site. So where the function is called, it's called the call site, and we're just going to pass it like so. Right now, we're not really using this just yet. We'll be doing that later in the video, but this is how you return things from a function. Let's make sure that we can still run our code. I'm going to delete everything, run our script. Okay, we've updated the code, so the functionality is the same and it's still working, so that's good. The next thing that we can do in this script is we can move this code right here that duplicates and updates our mesh. So I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to create a new function here. I'm going to call it foo for now, and then unindent by hitting Shift Tab. I'm calling it foo right here just while I'm thinking what a good name would be here. So I came up with a create next layer for the name of this function. I'm not a big fan of this name. This is one of those challenging things in, when you're writing some scripts, is creating good names that make sense. Right now we're just duplicating our mesh. We're updating the location and the rotation. Nothing really comes to mind right away. If you have a better idea for the name of this function, please write that in the comments. I would love to hear what you think. And let's update the call site. So we're going to be calling this function in our loop. And the thing that we're using in our function is this current angle. So we're calculating the current, so we're initializing the current angle right here. And then we're updating the current angle on each iteration of this for loop. And we need to pass in this angle so we can use it in this function. So functions can have arguments, so we're passing in this argument right here, and we're using it right here. So let's delete everything from the scene and rerun our script. I see another opportunity to create a function here, and it's these two lines right here. We can create a new function right above here. So I'm going to call this update object transform. I'm going to pass in the reference to the object that we're working on, and then we're going to pass in the angle that we're passing in from our loop, right, where we're calling this this function. So we're calling it inside of the create next layer. So we replace that code that we just moved right here with this function call. And again, you can, there is no law of like, okay, you need this many lines in a function. You can split up the code in a way that you feel is best for readability. And maybe you can reuse, for example, this function in another script that will do the same operation. Again, I could have left the code as is. It was pretty neat already, but I just wanted to show you that you can kind of continue to split this up. You can now read this function that will just, okay, we're duplicating the mesh, we're getting a reference, and then we're updating the transform of the object. So now you can start looking how this code is organized in a way that you don't have to think about every single line. You can just look at the main function. So the very first thing that we're going to call here is this. And instead of reading like all that code, remember that we had before, you can just focus on this small piece of code and think, okay, we're creating a mesh, so there's some kind of mesh creation going on. Okay, we're creating two variables, we're gonna have a loop, then we're gonna create the next layer, whatever that means, right? And then we're updating the current angle. So this way you would start reading your code or someone else's code and have a better experience in reading it. Now let's make sure that everything still runs, that I didn't make any mistakes. And all right, that looks like we're still running the script without any errors. That's great. Okay, now I think we've updated the code in a good way so it's more readable. And I think we can move on to our next part of the video where we're going to be adding a simple animation. The animation is going to look like this. And if you've done animations with Python before, I challenge you to try to create this animation on your own. And then when you're done, go back to this video and see how I did it. We're going to be adding a slight delay to the rotation of each one of these blocks. They're going to be rotating 360 degrees. And let's get started. Before we do that, let's update our workspace and get a timeline so we can see the keyframes that we're adding. Okay, this should help us start animating. And the thing that we're going to do first is we're going to create some variables that are going to help us track on what frame we are, the step, and the length of a given animation of a block. Okay, so I've created a comment here. Remember, this is not getting read by Python. It gets ignored because we add a hash character right here. And we are creating three variables. One is going to be tracking the current frame that we're adding a keyframe to. This is going to be the frame step. So on each iteration, we need to update the current frame. And this is going to be the value that we're going to be using to update the current frame. And this is going to be the duration of a full 360 animation of a single block. So let's see how that looks. Let me first add the update of the current frame. The update of the current frame will look like this, very similar to how we're updating the current angle. And we need to pass in the current frame, and we need to pass in the duration, right? Okay, so let's just copy these arguments, these new arguments, into our function right here. All right, let me move this like so you can see all the arguments. Okay, so that is our function call. Let's make sure that everything is still running. And okay, we're still able to run the code. Nothing really changed. We've only added these variables that we're not using yet. We're just updating them, and we're not actually using them in the scene creation process. All right, the very first thing that we need to do is we need to insert a keyframe, and we'll be doing this in the create next layer right after updating the object transform. And we're going to create a separate function later when we're done with the code. So let's just go down here and start adding the code. Okay, to add a keyframe to an object, we can use the keyframe insert function, and we need to provide a data path to the data that we'll be animating. In this particular case, we're going to be animating the Euler rotation, and we need to provide the frame that we'll be inserting the keyframe into. So it's going to be the current frame that we're passing into our create next layer function. All right, let's clear the scene and let's rerun our script. Okay, you can see that we did insert a keyframe, but actually there's something wrong, and we're inserting a lot of keyframes. So we've selected the very last building block here, and we have inserted a lot of keyframes, but we're only doing this once. So the thing that's happening here is we're duplicating the data of each one of these building blocks. So the next building block is going to contain the data of the previous one alongside with like animation data. And what we need to do is we need to clear that animation data before we can start adding our keyframes. And to clear that animation data, we can just use the animation data clear, and this will solve our issue. Let's clear the scene and rerun our script. All right, you can see that we've added a single keyframe. So this is the only keyframe that we're adding for this particular mesh. And now we need to add another keyframe. And to do that, we need to first calculate the next frame. So the duration of the rotation animation is going to be the current frame that we're at. So like this one right here, plus the duration that we're passing in as the argument, right? And the duration, remember, we set right here, it's 90 frames. So the current frame plus 90 frames is going to be the frame that we're going to be inserting our next keyframe. So let's run our script. And now you can see that we have these two keyframes inserted. And if we play the animation right now, nothing is going to be happening because we haven't really changed any rotation between these two keyframes. So let's do that. So right after setting the first keyframe, we're going to rotate the mesh 360 degrees like so. And now let's run our script and see how that looks. Okay, I'm going to hit Control Space to get a better view. And then I'm going to hit space to start the animation. Oh, it was at the end. Let me roll back. Let me do that again. And you can see that it's animating. All right. Okay, now that we have our working code, we can create a function out of it. So let's select the code that's creating the animation and cut it out by hitting Control X and then moving right here and defining a new function called animate rotation. And then paste in that code. And the thing that we need to pass in is the current frame, the rotation frame count, and also we need to pass in the reference to the object that we're working with. All right, so we can now call this where that code was before. So right here, let's clear the scene. Let's run our script. And all right. Okay, I see two problems that we currently have. One is that the very first mesh down here is not actually getting animated. So if we go to the beginning of the animation, I'm going to hit tab or space, sorry, and you can see that the first mesh is not getting animated. And to fix that, we can just use this function. So that's the beauty of using functions. We can just call the function where we need it, and we need to call this function right here, right after we create our mesh, and then we set our variables for the animation. And now we can just use this object variable. Remember I said we're going to need it. Here it is. We're going to use the current frame and the rotation. So now let's clear the scene and run our script, and then go to the very beginning and then hit space to start the animation. And look at that. And if you're enjoying this video, make sure to give this video a like so I can understand that I should create more videos like this. All right, another issue I was talking about is the animation actually ends about here, and then we have nothing happening, right? So let's go to the very top of our mesh, and you can see that after that, nothing is really happening. And that's not good. Let's update this to make sure that we're not wasting any frames. And to update the length of our animation, we can just go here and just, let's say, type in another value. And in the info panel right here, we'll get a piece of Python code that we can just copy. And we're gonna update that right after we're done looping over all of our meshes, right? We've updated everything, and now we want to set this to something that is the current frame. So let's run the code right now and see how that looks. And it did update our length of our animation, but you can see that there's an issue that it just stops right as soon as we start this final mesh animation. So you can, let me show you. So you can see it just jumps. And the problem there is that we're just setting the end frame to the current frame. The current frame is when we start the very last mesh animation, and that's not good. And to fix that, we just need to add the length in frames of the animation. So we're gonna make sure that this final mesh is gonna finish its animation before we cut off our animation. Now let's rerun our script. And now you can see that it finishes right as soon as this final mesh is done. So let's set the animation to this frame, and let's get a better look. So I'm going to press space, and you can see it finishes and starts over right as the last mesh is done. Okay, before I give you that challenge I promised in the beginning of the video, I want to add a slight touch to the creation of the mesh. So right here, we're going to go into this function, and I want to give a random rotation each time we run the script. And to do that, I'm just going to set a random random rotation right here. And here we go. So I'm going to use the random module and get a random number between 0 and 360, and use that as and create a variable and assign that value here and pass it into the radians. Remember, this is going to be like in degrees, and Blender requires us to provide angles in radians, and this is what we're doing here. We're converting from degrees into radians and applying the rotation right here. And we actually, since we're using the random module, we need to import it at the very top of our script. Remember, modules are like add-ons in Blender. Python has modules, right? Something like add-on that extends Python's functionality. So here we go. So I'm importing random, and now, actually, you know what? I'm not going to delete our mesh, our scene right here. I'm just going to rerun it, and you can see that it won't actually be in the same with the same rotation. And you can see that there's a slight difference, right? Let me run that again. And you can see that each time I'm running, there's a slight difference in the rotation about the z-axis. All right, and as promised for your challenge, I want you to take this code right here and update it to get this animation. This animation has every other mesh changing the direction of the rotation. Part of them is going to be rotating clockwise and the other part counterclockwise. And I want you to try to do this on your own. If you need a tip, before I start explaining, I will give you a tip, and then I'll start explaining the solution. Pause the video now and try this on your own. All right, for the tip, if you need a tip here, let's clear the scene. And the thing that you should take a look at is the animate rotation. And we run the script now and we start the animation. You can see that we're rotating one way, but how would you change the rotation direction? And the answer is actually we just need to rotate this by minus 360. So let's do that. And you can see that we're rotating in another direction. Okay, now the solution. The very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to switch between 360 and minus 360. So I'm going to create a new if statement right here, and I'm going to control it with a Boolean called clockwise, a variable that we're going to be passing in. So let me pass in that. And I'm going to create a new variable that's going to be equal to minus 360 or just 360, and I'm going to use it right here. So now we've created a parameter that's going to control what angle we're going to be rotating by. Okay, so where do we use this animate rotation? And we use it right here. So we need to now pass, so we need pass it right here, and we're gonna have to control this clockwise variable as another parameter inside of the loop. So we need to pass it again. Again, I'm going up the call stack. So we're starting right here. So this is the first function we call, then we go in here, and then we call this create next layer, and that's where we're adding the new parameter, right? And then we're passing into the animate rotation, right? We have a new parameter right here. So that's clockwise, and let's add it here. And actually, I forgot to add a comment right here. So we're animating the original mesh. So we need to also, so we've created the variable and we're initializing it to true. And then I'm going to pass it there. And now we need to toggle this clockwise on each iteration. So on one iteration, it's going to be clockwise, and the next iteration is going to be counterclockwise or not clockwise. And to do that, I'm just going to use this. And if you're not familiar with not, then it's pretty simple. We're using a Boolean data type here, and you can only have two values in a Boolean data type, which is true or false. To get the opposite of the current value of like true or false, we can just use not. And you can just check this in the interactive Python console. So right here, so I can just write not true, and that's going to return false. And again, if not false, that's going to be true. And we're just using this right here. So the next value of clockwise is going to be the opposite of the current value. And let's see how that looks. Let's delete everything and let's rerun our code. Okay, I didn't make any errors. That's good. Let's start our animation from the very beginning. I'm going to hit Control Space to get a better view. And let's hit space. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. And for more tutorials like this, make sure to subscribe and check out my Beginner Blender Python playlist. And thank you so much for watching.